This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
There he is, the man, the myth, the legend that is Manny Navarro. Manny, any truth now that Ruiz is paying you also an NIL right now? In fact, I heard he's paying you more than we're paying you. I don't know. I'm just that's what I hear. I'm just saying.
Hey, my kids don't care where the money comes from as long as it takes them to Disney World and whatever the hell else they want, man. So you know how I work. No, there is no NIL deal with me and Ruiz.
Damn it.
But I was on the Twitter space last night when him and Darren Ravel were going at each other's throats. Just entertaining as hell. Bring your popcorn. I mean, these Twitter spaces at night sometimes, though. I mean, they get a little wacky with the people who jump on. But last night was an interesting scenario for sure.
So walk us through what I wasn't on there. So what went on? What transpired?
Well, obviously, there's been a lot of news lately as far as Miami players signing NIL deals, and Ruiz has put out how much each of them are making. And so, like, as I tried to explain to the Miami fan base who wants to know why Darren Ravel is writing these stories, I said, well, he's writing these stories because there's chum in the water, right? Anytime people are talking about paying players at the college level, even with NIL, people, I mean, listen, how long did we live with that being illegal, right? I mean, have we really changed our mindset?
No.
Are we? So I think, he wrote a story yesterday, basically off the interviews that were done at Kane Sport with Gary Furman, where Drew Rosenhaus and Ruiz and Malkikawa, first round management, went on and talked about the deals that were being signed. And then he tweeted out how this is all being done under the guise of a company that just started operations a week ago. So immediately it's like a trigger word for Miami fans, right? What do you mean the guys? This is legit. This is legal, right? And the reality of all of this, is we are venturing into untapped waters. There are no NCAA rules. There is no legislation other than state legislation that sort of governs this area where college players can make money. And so Ravel and Ruiz ultimately were discussing how long this company's been around, this company, what the aim of it is, is it being used as a tool to entice high school recruits to come to Miami? And Ruiz's stance is, look, we're not just paying guys that are going to Miami. We're not just having these deals with people going to Miami. You're going to see deals with kids from FIU. You're going to see deals from St. Thomas University. Ruiz's stance is he's helping the community. Ultimately, Miami fans love this because it's helping them, right? It's helping them get players. But there is that gray area, where, let's face it, the old rule of you cannot pay high school recruits to come to university, that still exists. That hasn't changed, right? That's still against the rules. Well, how do you govern that? When you're putting out contract information online and you're talking about this in public spaces, you bring on heat from people like Ravel and others who are looking to get college programs in trouble or calling them out for their missteps.
Right.
And that's all that is.
And that's where I would, for all you Canes fans out there that are butthurt, there isn't a booster in Oklahoma that's doing this right now, going public and telling you about all the bling and all the money that they're dropping. They're not doing it in Alabama. They are dropping the money, but it's all behind the scenes.
Right.
And so, and for those of you, since we have a lot of Miami fans that have a lot of Hispanic in them, El Alade does not help. Okay?
Right.
And that's kind of what you're doing, is you're bringing attention to yourself. So you're bringing eyes to yourself. So then now they can look into what you're doing even more because you're public. So if there is any illegal slip up in this process that you think is legal, you're kind of exposing yourself. Right. So Darren Ravel is going to cover this because nobody else is doing something like this, that they're just sitting up there publicly and there's all these big name people saying, well, we gave money to this kid and that kid and that kid and that kid. And you're standing there like Oprah and saying, you get an NIL deal and you get an NIL deal and you get an NIL deal. And what do you expect? Darren Rovell and others are going to cover this.
Absolutely. And I've kept my distance through all of this. Because my old school teaching, sitting next to old Ed Pope at the Orange Bowl for many years, learning at the foot of him and all the other journalists at the Miami Herald over the years. And I've kind of waited to see what is this guy's motivating factor for all of this, for Ruiz. Like, what is it that he's really pushing for? What is legal? What is? And I've wanted to see legal documentation. I've wanted to see these NIL deals actually get approved by the university, because again, this is the Wild West right now. At every school you have guys like this. The difference is John Ruiz is putting everything out there. And as you say, chum in the water, people are going to come and they're going to ask questions, and he's answering them. He sat there for a long time answering the questions, saying, hey, listen, we have an outside law firm who's confirming we're not breaking any rules. We have, we're going through this process meticulously, he claims. But again, all of this is fresh.
What was his answer? What was his answer on why he's doing it?
Well, I asked him that question. I said, why are you doing this publicly? And his response to me was, well, why wouldn't it be? It would be asinine otherwise. We're trying to promote our company. We're trying to help these athletes get more money. And his thinking is, when you put out contract information, it helps them with future deals. Other people see, hey, these kids are being paid this much to do it. Somebody's investing in them. Maybe I want to get involved. To me, when it comes to college sports, being in this realm for many, many years, knowing how many kids were paid under the table anyway, Miami fans just don't understand. Like, they think, well, we're being picked on. And I'm saying to them, no. The SEC schools for years got away with it because they had a system, dude. It was the mafia. It was mafioso like in those areas.
Right. Some dude they don't know shows up at the house, drops off a bag. Nobody asks any questions, and that's it. It's over. And nobody knows anything. Didn't come from the school. Didn't come directly from an agent. Didn't come from a booster. Just some dude showed up at your house, and you kind of knew what you had to do after that. And that's it. It's one of those things. That's really what you should be doing, if you're John Ruiz,
Yeah. But we live in a different place down here, brother. And you know how it is. Miami's going to do it this way. And look, every reporter, I don't blame Darren Rovell for sniffing around. Like, I can't blame him for wanting to write to figure out what the hell's going on at Miami, right? Who's this Ruiz guy? All of us are trying to figure out, where this is headed, right? Where is this going to be troublesome for Miami? I mean, I've sent text messages to Rudy Fernandez and different people in Miami's administration. Hey, this guy's on a Twitter space talking to high school recruits.
Yeah.
Like, you want to pay attention to this just in case it might get you in trouble.
Just to kind of, go back and go back, way back into time. What Ruiz is doing is nothing different than when Sonny Werbin was doing with the New York Jets back in the AFL days. And he had a mediocre quarterback before he got Joe Namath. And he was like, well, I'm going to give him a big contract if he plays well this week. And people would ask him, well, why are you going to do that? He goes, because it'll make news. It'll get our name out there. It'll get people talking. And so Ruiz is doing that. He's getting his name out there. He's getting his company out there. And I was told behind the scenes that, believe it or not, his company made some deal where they landed like a bunch of money.
Right.
And they made a bunch of money, and he just wants to kind of give back. And this is his way of giving back, actually. He actually means well. While he's doing it very aladoso and he's doing it very brash and all that stuff, the twisted part about it that people may not understand, he actually has good intentions. You know what I mean? Hey. And he means well with it, but it's just the way he's going about it is very Miami, bro.
Yeah, no, it is. And look, in the end, like I said, I've kind of tried to be Switzerland through this, like, do my job. That's my job as a journalist, right? Ask questions, figure out what's really going on. But people are going to go about their own business reporting this story any way they want, and I'm dude, I'm a show me the papers, show me the legitimacy of these type of things. And early on in this process, there was none of that. It was promises. It was, hey, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Now you see the documentation of the suit, against the Florida High School Athletic Association. You see the documentation of, everything that he's trying to go through. And he said last night, hey, these were passed through UM. They went through their compliance office, their NIL people, and it was approved. Now, what's going to happen a year from now? Who knows? Who knows what the NCAA and all of these universities together, I think, the ACC and the Power 5 schools, what they ultimately agree upon as legal and illegal. Because right now, it is not an even playing field. Certain states have certain advantages over others when it comes to this.
Right. Well,
so I would think at some point.
But again, the problem is you're cheating. It's not about your state laws. It's about cheating the individuals of their opportunities.
Right.
And so if your state is getting in the way of it, that's the state's problem, not you shouldn't be hurting other individuals that can benefit from it in other states. It's kind of like in crypto, those of us, we can invest in OKCoin and in crypto.com and Voyager and Binance. But if you live in New York, you only have Coinbase. And you will not be able to use OKCoin or crypto.com, but that's the New York laws that unfortunately limit their opportunities. So they're losing out on very many money-making opportunities in crypto and DeFi because they can't take advantage of all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, it all depends on the rules. Now, when we look at what's going on, and do we know if this is bringing the attention of the NCAA, because that's what I really would be concerned about. And then here's the flip side of it, and part two of this. This is the Columbus Mafia, isn't it? And I know whether they like being called that or not, but Ruiz is part of the Columbus Mafia, and so is Mario Cristobal, correct?
Well, Mario obviously went to Columbus. I don't know all of
I mean, that's a part of the Mafia, but what I'm saying is they know each other. Right. So I have to assume that Ruiz, whether he personally ran it through Mario or through channels next to Mario or whatever, but I'm sure before he did all of this, he wasn't going to screw his brother over. So I'm sure he asked his Columbus brother, hey, is it cool if I do these kind of things? And he had to have gotten some kind of an okay from inside that coaching staff, correct?
Well, here's what I would say in response to that. I think, first of all, the way the laws are written right now, okay, in terms of the college, breaking college rules and hurting a college program, coaches and people who work at the university are not allowed to participate in funneling NIL money to players. So
I get that.
How do you prove
No, I'm not saying you prove it, but I'm just saying common sense tells you that, hey, Mario, I'm going to do this. Hey, between us is, there had to have been something that.
Yeah. Could I tell you for sure it happened?
No, of course not. And you wouldn't even if you knew. The hell are you talking about? Come on, bro. I wasn't born yesterday, but we're spitballing here.
Yes.
And I wasn't born yesterday, bro. I'm sorry.
Of course.
I got to imagine that, this has been talked about behind the scenes, like, because this is what they're doing. They're trying to create an advantage for themselves as a program. And that's what you got to love also if you're a Canes fan.
Absolutely. And ultimately, Miami is benefiting from all of this. They are the school that is getting players paid, and other players are watching and they're seeing. And as long as this continues, and as long as they don't get themselves in trouble and Ruiz goes through all the checks and balances he needs to do, then this is nothing but a plus for the program, man. Like, of course, it's obvious. Will it help them in recruiting? In all honesty, high school recruiting, I'm not talking about the transfer portal, because the transfer portal is a different animal altogether. Once you're in college, you can sell whatever the hell you want to sell to a kid as far as NIL deals. But from a high school level, I don't think as many kids – it's become a different deal now because of the transfer portal. There are fewer, quote unquote, elite high school kids in my mind, in the eyes of these programs, because they have to win right away. These coaches are under such immense pressure that the transfer portal in a lot of ways becomes much more valuable than, hey, winning the sweepstakes for a 5-star or a 4-star. I'm not saying it doesn't matter, but what I am saying is for these coaches, I think a lot of them are realizing, man, hey, you know what? I'd love to get this 5-star. I'd love to get this 4-star kid, but I know it's going to be a year or two before he can really help me. And for a coach, sometimes they don't have that time. Like, they're under pressure to win right away. So I think as far as money and what's being promised to a lot of these kids, it's still the top of the top. It's still the top of the top kids, like the upper 1% that are kids that are getting the big time money to be swayed to schools.
Manny Navarro, follow him on Twitter at Manny_Navarro. I guess we have some news on the recruiting side, a little Ole Miss running back.
Yeah, Henry Parrish, who back-to-back 2,000-yard seasons, junior and senior year at Columbus, led Columbus to a state championship. And Miami, he really wanted a Miami offer, but Miami was in love with Don Chaney Jr. and Jalen Knighton, and they had their guys. And he was just – that year they were loaded at running back down here in South Florida. And so Parrish ended up following Kevin Smith, who was the running backs coach for Lane Kiffin at FAU. He followed Lane to Ole Miss. And now Kevin Smith's at Miami, and he's followed him to Miami. So just like Jalen Knighton, very similar skill set, catches the ball out of the backfield. I think he gives Miami the kind of depth that they used to have, right? When a guy running back would go down, well, they just bring in Najee Davenport, they bring in Willis McGahee, or they, whoever. It needs to get back to sort of those days. Alabama has that. Georgia, Clemson, all those schools have that kind of depth. Miami has a deep stable of running backs now with Henry Parrish. He's a good back. And they also picked up Frank Ladson, a receiver out of Clemson, who is also from South Florida, played at South Dade High School. He was the #1 recruit in the area, I think, in 2019, him and Tyreek Stevenson. They're former teammates at South Dade. And so he's coming as well. Kid, it dealt with a lot more injuries in his career at Clemson. I think he rolled his ankle before he even stepped on the field and was dealing with an ankle injury, then COVID protocols, then a hip injury, and then groin. So the kid's had it all, just hasn't lived up to it in his first 3 years. And now he's coming home and he's got an opportunity, in my mind, in the next 2 years to be the kind of talent that people thought he could be.
All right, good stuff there. What are you working on in the Athletic so folks can check you out, my man?
Yeah, well, I wrote about obviously those two arrivals, and now I'm in the process of writing a story about Tyler Van Dyke, who just, obviously this is a different era for him. Derek King is gone. The team is officially his. Derek King's not over his shoulder anymore coaching in the QB room. He's got to be the leader. He's got to lead Miami through off-season workouts and so forth. So I caught up with Tyler over the weekend, in part because of the NIL deals and stuff that he's signing. And then, listen, Cyrus Moss, I spoke to our boy Cyrus last Friday, spoke to Shamar Stewart's people, the 5-star recruit who is going to be visiting Georgia this week and then Miami on the 28th. And then you also have this elite prospects camp for all the 2023 kids that Miami's hosting on the weekend. So there is a ton going on. And of course, the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator jobs, which still are unfilled. And last night there was a report from Football Scoop about Jason Candle, the head coach at Toledo, being a candidate. I checked with people, and turns out this one has legs. I think, he's a guy who's kind of been stuck at Toledo for a while. I think there's a chance that him and Mario have the same agent, from what I understand. And I think Miami ultimately could pay him more than he's making at Toledo to be the head coach, to be the offensive coordinator.
Okay. All right.
So
interesting.
Toledo's had a good offense, man.
Yeah, they've had a good offense. Yeah. They've that's kind of what they've been known for, that they've been scoring some points lately. So that'll be interesting. All right, good stuff. Follow him on Twitter at Manny_Navarro, and make sure you subscribe to The Athletic like I do. All right, so you can support Manny. And by the way, you get great coverage locally, nationally, even with soccer. So all that good stuff with The Athletic. Appreciate you as always, my man. We will talk on Friday.
Thank you for having me on. Talk to you again.
Pleasure, as always. There you go, the great Manny Navarro. Love it. All right, excellent stuff by Manny. Excellent insight. And you could be seeing more of Manny. May have some news for you on Friday on that.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.